unnecessary slaughter. It is a very unique case, that of Herzen. He understood far better than the professional political philosophers of the 19th century, who, on the whole, tend to try and extract general principles from the life of the 19th century, and to recommend solutions which follow by rational means from tidy categories into which they classify opinions or principles or views. Far better than these people, he understood both the justification of violent revolution, the justification of saying that a pair of boots is more valuable than all the plays of Shakespeare, which the critic Pisarev once said in a moment of indignation. The justification for whereby the oppressed masses, to whom culture really offers nothing but blood and sweat and tears, by which they throw off this monstrous yoke of the sweetness of life, of civilization, of culture, and also understood that there is vast value even in civilizations which rest upon slavery, even in civilizations where only a minority produces divine works of art, where only a small number of persons have the freedom and the self-confidence and the imagination and the gifts to be able to produce forms of life which last, forms of life which one can shore up against the ruin of our times. And this curious ambivalence, this defense of revolutionaries against our smug accusers among the liberals or the conservatives, and violent charges against the revolutionaries on behalf of the free individual, on behalf of the claims of life and art and human decency and human dignity, and on behalf of the kind of form of society in which human beings shall not exploit or trample one another, even in the name of justice or progress or other abstractions. This extraordinary ambivalence makes Herzen, in a sense, the most realistic, the most penetrating, the most vivid observer and describer of life in his own time. He understood everything. He understood the value of the Russian idealists of the 40s because they were so imaginative, because they were the freest and gayest and most civilized and most interesting society had ever been, and he understands the protest against it of the exasperated lower middle classes to whom this offered nothing, who merely felt snubbed by it, who merely felt that this was being simply a waste of time on the part of a lot of intellectual flâneurs with no serious understanding of the life around them. And because he understood both these things, his work, My Past and Thoughts, because it isn't a systematic treatise, and because it isn't written with a clear unitary tendency, and because it isn't written in order to support some single thesis, and because he wasn't a slave of any formula or any political doctrine, because of all this, it is a profound and living masterpiece. And it is really this that constitutes Herzen's greatest claim to our attention. Not his political views, original as these were. Not his social views, original as these were. For remember, he was a person, one of the very few in the 19th century, who really disbelieved in all general solutions as such, and this in 1850 was the most unique position to adopt. Still, this is not the reason for which, ultimately, he claims our respect and our attention. The ultimate reason, apart from his interesting life, apart from the uniqueness of his personality, is that his autobiography is a noble Russian masterpiece, worthy to be put on a level with War and Peace and the novels of Turgenev. One of the greatest works of art produced in Russia, which was by no means poor in works of art, particularly works of art in prose in the 19th century. One of the real glories of Russian literature. Marvelously written, marvelously readable, and one of the most fascinating and unforgettable documents any human being ever produced. It is this, really, as a writer of genius, in a sense, as a human being of genius who expressed himself in irregular ways, but expressed himself ultimately with great success and triumph. It is as that Herzen is worthy of our study and of our attention. And more particularly, because his views and his attitudes and his form of life, in some sense, have more relevance to our times than to even his own. Because he was a prophetic thinker. With Karl Marx and Tocqueville, he was certainly the best observer of the European scene in the 19th century. And because he was prophetic, some of the things which he says refer not to things which were inchoate and still unnoticeable to the common eye in his own time, but to things which, alas, have grown to monstrous size in our own, and to which his works offer the best, most effective, and, on the whole, most truthful antidote.